Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Shop Talk, hosted by the Triangle Area SQL Server Users Group. So, if this is your first time with Shop Talk, welcome. If this is your 11th time with Shop Talk, one more and you get a free coupon. Free coupon gives you 20% off your next episode of Shop Talk. So normally we sell those coupons at 20% of the face value of a Shop Talk episode, but you get that one for free. If you're in chat, welcome in chat. You can say hello. You can choose not to say hello as well. That's ultimately you have free will. I think I'm going to believe that we have free will. I'm going to believe that this is not a deterministic universe. But if you have questions about that, drop it in chat. I don't know that we'd actually talk about it, and I certainly wouldn't make anything sound coherent if we were to talk about it. But this is a chat-driven show, so we talk about what chat wants to talk about, unless chat goes completely off the rails, in which case, well, we probably still talk about it, but I may kind of make fun of you a little bit along the way. But not you specifically, of course. Just everybody else. So if you have not already, I do want to make mention of the TriPass survey, which has been out for a little while. Link is in chat right there. So you can click that link, fill out the survey, let us know, because we send these surveys out every 2 years. And the goal of the survey is to learn a little bit about what the TriPass community thinks. And this year we have a couple of major themes. Theme number one is, do we perform hybrid meetings or do we stick with remote only? And theme number two is around, what do people want to see? What are you interested in getting out of TriPass over the next year or so? In terms of topics, in terms of major themes. The doors are open. Walk right through them. Welcome in, Anders. And with that survey, what I'm going to do is I'll leave it open for the next couple of weeks. And then the next episode of Shop Talk, which might be in 2 weeks, or I may just decide to postpone it until December. I think I'm going to have to check to see what the schedule should look like here. So we may postpone that one until December, in which case we would talk about the TriPass survey on the next episode of Shop Talk. So do keep that in mind. It is just double checking. Yeah, given that Monday is the Monday of Thanksgiving, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how I'm feeling. If I'm feeling chippy and we want to do an episode on the 21st, we'll do it. If not, we're going to push it to December. Speaking of pushing things to December, quick reminder that tomorrow we have Josephine Bush talking to us about the concepts of SQL auditing for our advanced DBA group, but that we don't have a main meeting this month because that's going to happen the same week as Past Summit and Live 360. Double checking. Yeah, because that would be the third Tuesday. So we will not have a main meeting, and our data science and business intelligence meetings never run in November or December because of Thanksgiving and Christmas, respectively. As a result, there's only one meeting this month. Gosh, how like a regular user group we are all of a sudden. And there's, I think, going to be 2 meetings in December, but we won't have that third one, that data science and business intelligence. We're going to save that till January, have a whole new stretch of people giving a whole new stretch of topics during those 10 months. So basically our data science and business intelligence group, they follow the old Roman calendar before the additions of July and August. So that's just how we do things for TriPass. That's how we roll. And welcome in Mike, who has jumped in on the air live, already in progress. So all that pre-show swearing we normally do, we're not going to be able to do that tonight. But glad to have you here, Mike.
Thank you,
Hello,
sir.
Mike.
Hi there.
And by the way, we also have Mala over here. I haven't introduced Mala yet today. So welcome in, Mala.
Good evening, everyone. So Twitch wants my login reauthorizing. That's why I went to get a phone.
Fair enough. So that's our reminder that the TriPass survey is still active, but we're going to shut it down pretty soon and take the results as they are. So this is close to your last chance to shape the future of the Triangle Area SQL Server Users Group. Next up, board elections. The other opportunity to shape the future of the Triangle Area SQL Server Users Group. Board elections start next Thursday. So that's when the important voting happens. Next Thursday is when it begins. And there are 3 positions open this year. President, which is me, El Presidente, the Vice President of Marketing, and the Treasurer. So Vice President of Marketing, Rick Pack. Treasurer is Mala. If there is anybody who is interested in running for any of these positions, do let me know. Just send me an email, hit me up on Meetup, however you normally would get a hold of me, and we can put you in the running. If nobody is in the running, then we'll have elections like, pick your South American country of choice.
Honduras.
If that was a little too risque for you, pick your South American country of choice in the 1960s. Anders says, I just need to know why my USB mouse is not working from my hub, my Anchor hub, but 2 monitors are working. That's because your mouse's refresh rate is different from your monitor's refresh rate, so the mouse is actually there. It's just flickering really fast, and they're just bouncing back and forth. That's the scientific explanation, Anders. Totally legitimate explanation as well. Also, you may need to degauss your mouse. For the kids these days who were born after CRT monitors disappeared from the market, degaussing was really fun. I had a monitor that I had to degauss every couple of days, and I loved having it build up, and then you push the degauss button. I don't know what that says about me. I think it says that I like making noises like.
It's fun to watch movies when they have CRTs. It's like high tech, and they're all like.
Oh yeah. It is fun. You'll every once in a while see a movie from like 2005 where the high tech hacker with their beige box and CRT monitor. Yep, I get it. I had a fancy one. So that particular monitor, I did have a fancy Sony Trinitron monitor, but the one that I was thinking about was actually an El Cheapo brand monitor from a local shop back in Columbus, and it actually did not have a power option. You couldn't turn the monitor off, so it just ran all the time.
And it was a CRT?
Yeah, it was a CRT. That one was.
They use a lot of
inches.
power. They use a lot of power.
They did, but you know what? I was under the age of 18, so I wasn't paying those power bills. And then I went to college, and I didn't pay those power bills. And then by the time I graduated, I'm pretty sure I didn't have that monitor anymore. What the Snake screensavers for? It did have a power saving mode where it would go into where it would effectively turn itself off, but it always had that little yellow light that would stay on.
Now wait a minute. Is this when Enron went out of business? Because
it was about that time.
Because Kevin gave up his CRTs.
No, Enron was California. Their financial shenanigans had nothing to do with my subsidizing coal plants throughout the Midwest and eastern parts of Appalachia. I had to fight my sysadmin at a first job to turn the screensaver off. Yeah, screensaver on the SQL Server. Please tell me it was the OpenGL one where you had the pipes that were in 3D. The one that would put your CPU at 100% when it ran. Yes. Excellent. That was the best screensaver. That one was definitely the best. I actually have had that screensaver crash my computer back in the day. So it would... I forget exactly what the problem was. I don't remember if it was overheating or something, but it would actually cause my computer to crash, and I'd have to reboot it. So that was obviously a good screensaver. Although the flying toaster screensaver set. I forget what the name of that was, but that we had that on one computer, and it was fun. Increased our BOD from every 7 hours to every hour. That's not what you want to do. So, quick, as that quick reminder goes, TriPass board voting starts next Thursday. If you want to boot me out, this is your last chance for 2 years. So you gotta get on it. One of you will have to draw the short straw and run against me, and then you'll all have to vote against me. It is possible. I believe in you, chat. I believe that you can overthrow TriPass.
I hope you're ready to do a lot of work if you want to take over.
Yeah. I mean, at that point, I would say, here you go, let it burn. But I don't know. If you have great ideas, in all seriousness, it is open. And so if there is anybody who does want to run for president of TriPass or for treasurer or for VP of marketing, it is open. I will say that Rick and Mala are running again, as am I. So there are no open positions in the sense of, nobody's said that they want to run. But I don't want to make it sound like, haha, this is just a fake election. So in that case, I just want to make mention, just make sure everybody's aware. If you want to be nominated, if you want to nominate yourself, you don't have to be nominated. You can nominate yourself. Then Friday is your last chance to do it. Better get my campaign speeches ready. I think I would watch that campaign speech, Anders. I probably would watch it. It depends on how long it is. If it's more than like 45 minutes, then I'm not going to watch it. But if it's less than 45 minutes, I think you can do it.
In a world where always on means always on.
3-hour rant for a warm up. Okay, so I've already poked fun at Cuba once tonight. I don't know that I need to poke fun at Cuba again, Anders. But you know what? Let's do it. 3-hour rant. That is about the time that Fidel Castro took to warm up. Then we stormed the headquarters. Wait, we have a headquarters? Mike, why didn't you tell me we had a headquarters?
Well, it's on a need-to-know basis.
Oh, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Hopefully it's a volcano lair, because if TriPass had a volcano lair, I think we'd be in good shape. So, along those lines, totally related to volcano layers, Mala, you've got a topic for tonight, and thankfully it's a topic that's actually related to something database adjacent.
So my topic is essentially... Oh, go on, Kevin.
Oh, I was just going to say, that topic sounds like it's data conferences, so go for it, Mala.
No, it started because of a conversation on Twitter today on the future of data conferences, and many people, myself included, we don't have the same people attending those conferences anymore. So to me, a lot of friends who mattered a whole lot, who were among my reasons, not the only reason, but among my reasons to go to Seattle once a year, are no longer around. They've not even changed jobs. They're just not doing anything related to SQL Server anymore. Joe Sack has gone to Mongo. Vicky Harp is not working on any data stuff. She's gone to lead an OS team, the Windows team. And so on and on. Those are just two examples. And I counted nearly 8 people as of this morning like that, who have no real, even if they want to come, I'm pretty sure their employer is not going to support it, because what they do has nothing to do with the conference, which led to the topic, should we be doing exclusively as a SQL or SQL Server conferences anymore? There are people who think, yes, it's just that the crowds may be smaller, but we still have to keep doing. That's what SQL Bits is going to be doing, but it has scaled down in terms of size. There are others who think the platform has to expand and attract more people who've gone to work on other platforms. So that's what I thought would be an interesting topic to talk about.
Yeah, let's take it a step at a time. Anders mentions having to pick among people he knows at every time slot for Summit. I guess I want to start by unpacking the people moving around and moving between technologies thing, because I think that is absolutely real, but I also think that's a good thing. Um, and it's reflective of, these are the people who I know that we have um, opportunities to grow, to change, to expand. And another person I can throw in there, Adam Mechanic, moved toward Python for a while. I'm not sure if he's still doing that all the time, but he stepped away from a lot of SQL Server community stuff because that wasn't what he was doing really. So there's a lot of that. But I would also note that, well, I mean, the SQL Server jobs aren't going away. There are new people. There are a lot of people coming into the community who are getting started with speaking, who are that follow-on generation, and so there's that opportunity for these people to step in as other people move on to other opportunities. So there are people moving to Mongo or to Postgres, or they're going to development, they're going into management, maybe senior management. Like the person who used to run the Triangle Area SQL Server users group before me, and kind of, I know there was a person before me, Brett. And so Brett moved on. He became a CTO, and does, I don't think he does that much in the way of business intelligence and Power BI at this point. That it's mostly running teams and doing management and living that life. And and meetings, yes. And I think that's just a natural part of life, that there are going to be some people who will stick within a topic because I really like this topic and I really want to stay in here. There will be other people who just say, I'm interested in learning something new. So I think from that perspective, seeing people move, I don't think is a bad thing. I think on net, it's a good thing, because it means that you have that opportunity to grow, and you also have that opportunity for additional people to come in. And maybe the conferences, I see what you're saying there, Mala, that old friends do matter, and yeah, absolutely. And it is good to catch up with those people. And it can be difficult when, hey, I went to this conference with person X for 10 years, and now person X is running a data science team and doesn't have anything to do with SQL Server anymore. Or they're running a development team and they're on some totally different platform. Or they're out of tech altogether. They're doing something completely different. And that is, I guess, the cost of life. But I think that's probably where I would start. This close to an Etsy shop. There you go, Mike.
Just pictures of my cat. I don't know if anybody likes my cat, but
I think we do like your cat, just, especially when your cat hops around.
She's fixing to.
Who doesn't like cats? Well, I mean, at least I like cats that don't belong to me.
Ha.
Mala, I love this topic, and on the topic of people coming and going and changing careers, or I met you all in 2018 or so, and I had gone to different technical groups, and you guys were absolutely phenomenal and continue to be. And so I engage. We're not a database company, right? So Duke is a big company that has many people doing many different things, and SQL Server is now going to be a push for us. So I can't prove it, but I sell this group all the time on our folks, and like the approximate count distinct and the stored procedure that we talked about, the checks your who is and who is 3 and some other things. That knowledge that you all are sharing with me is like coming to a whole new set of people. So we have about 20 people that are like going to watch the videos, and I'm pointing them to them. They're not going to come to this per se, or they might not go to the advanced DBA on brain melty stuff like index fragmentation, but they're definitely going back to look at key things that are important to them. So I think that's a neat aspect of it. It is hard for me to get people to come consistently because kids or database isn't the only thing they do or whatever. But I have, to your point, Mala, like this group, we've had ETL on Python, we've had machine learning, we have professional development. It's not just SQL Server, right? So we get exposed to a lot of different things, which I love. So I hope I stick around. But I don't do SQL Server every day until now, recently. So even though I do Oracle, I have learned a tremendous amount.
So to that point too, it's getting harder and harder to pick the right sessions to attend. It's not just about people. So this is a conference that I helped organize in a significant way. So I don't blame them for anything, not picking the right sessions, or going on a gripe fest about that. That's not what it is. To me, what do I pick that's going to be of value to where I work? And if it's not about work, then how else am I going to use it, or evolve what I learned to something else? I honestly struggled this time, really struggled. And my boss and I, we talked about what are the two pre-cons to attend. We have a small training budget, so we're going to get paid for it. I picked ITSIC because every year I try to attend what ITSIC teaches, and that's always been of value to me. That was a no-brainer. But for the second one, okay, I asked my boss, can I go and attend this? They have one on Postgres, so can I go attend this Postgres thing? Because I did a small project on Postgres. I know some of it, but I like to learn more. He was like, I'm not too sure. We don't plan to use any Postgres here, so why would I give you time to go and attend that? Okay, so do I do another one on T-SQL, maybe what Eric Darling or somebody like that is teaching? Do I go and learn parameter sniffing? It's all around SQL again. So it's in that little comfort zone. Or do I say, okay, enough of this, I go to what Ben and Anthony are going to be teaching on Azure, but we don't use Azure where we work. So is that going to be of much use to me? It's going to be a lot of foreign terms. It's going to be all new stuff. And typically my experience with that is, if I go into something like that, it lasts in my brain for 2 days. Okay, after that, I don't use it. So what's the point? So it's getting to be harder and harder to find what. And past summit sessions used to be like, I can't attend all these 3 classes at the same time. Gosh, this is such a bummer. It used to be the other way around. You wouldn't have enough time to attend all the things that you wanted to. Now It is like, how do I fit? What are the sessions I'm going to pick? Is this really going to be worth my time? There's so much thought and so much stress around that. It's really hard. It's getting harder. That's all.
Yeah, so there's at least 2 points that I do want to dive into. One of them I'm going to hold off, which is about the variety of sessions. But I think, let me ask you this, Mala. So your reaction there, I would say that sounds like early on, the first several years, there's all this, hey, I have all these sessions to look at, but that as you have seen these sessions, as you've seen, okay, I know about this topic, as you've grown in your career, now the number of sessions that are directly applicable to your position have shrunk. Not necessarily due to content changes. I do want to talk about content changes in a bit.
You're saying the exact thing that Steve Jones said too.
Yeah, and this is I'd say the curse of the 300 plus level database person coming to a past summit, that you're not going to find that many sessions 300, 400, 500 level that are going to relate directly to what you're doing. And I think part of it is as you move more and more complex, it becomes harder to draw direct interest. Like for example, I could do a 300 level or 400 level on security in SQL Server. Well, some database administrators who are very familiar with security will enjoy that. But that's a small percentage. Anybody who's a database developer, who's an app developer, who's a data scientist, a business analyst, all of these other people who might benefit from a 100 level on security aren't going to get anything out of a 400 level on security. And so you end up with like 4 people in the room. And change security to availability groups, change availability groups to replication, change it to whatever topic that you want, even query tuning. Paul White level query tuning, unless you're Paul White or Itzik. You know, that 400, 500 level, you might get a few dozen people, but you're not necessarily going to get a large number of people who will really benefit from it. You'll get a lot of people who may come in and then get really confused and say, I guess I learned stuff, but my head hurts.
Well,
so yeah.
I this just popped into my head because I was practicing something the other day, and I sometimes forget that you can use super complicated case expressions or different types of expressions in order by clauses. And I was reading through this very sophisticated example, had like 8 lines for just an order by clause that was like a case statement, and I was like, oh, you could do a session on that. Like, what are some edge cases where that would be really useful? And I'm always like, well, I try not to use order by because it's a performance nightmare depending on what you're doing. So I might attend that for fun, but to your point, Mala, I probably, if it were 400 or 500 level, like these advanced edge cases to use order by expression, well, I'm like, nope, thanks.
No, there are also people who think that once you reach that stage that Kevin just described, then your time is better spent on networking. Like you just sit outside. That's what that brings me back full circle to the question of the people you know. And I'm an introvert by nature. I'm unlikely to just go walk up to someone and say, hey, how are you, and pump the hand and say, let's chat. I mean, small talk is really, really hard for me, even with people I know for a long time. I run out of steam pretty easily. So when there is a significant amount of people attending who are total strangers, and a lot of people for a long time are no longer coming, then that makes networking even harder than it used to.
Yeah, it's the it's in-person network effects.
Yeah.
Like you're describing, that if 10 of my friends are going to an event, it's easy for me to say, yeah, I'll go to the event, because worst case scenario, I can spend time with those people.
Right.
If 0 of my friends are going to this event, I may still go. And at that point, I'm probably not going to talk to anybody because nobody knows who I am, and I don't know who anybody is, and why would I talk to people? I've never talked to a person in my life. I don't know what you're talking about. So yeah, no, I get you completely there, Mala.
Yeah.
I want to review a little bit in chat. So there was a comment that came in here. Anders mentioned, from a networking perspective, people moving to new roles is great when you suddenly need a job. And there, Mala, I see you and Anders had a little discussion here, like assuming they move to data jobs. I agree with Anders on this. And it may actually be easier when people move to non-data jobs, because at that point, they're not the data people. So I understand where you're coming from there, Mala, that, hey, if a person works for the Cosmos DB team at Azure, or for MongoDB, or for something that doesn't use databases at all,
Right.
then yeah, that person, you may not be able to find a good role. But if that person works as now the head of development at a company,
no, those
they need
things, then I completely agree. Yeah.
So let's see. Selection this year from a traditional DBA standpoint was better than 2018 or 2019. That is going to get to a topic I want to talk about very shortly.
So I'll put in a word here that this year they did a good job. Good job in the sense that the selection was 99% dictated by community. We had an excellent team, and whatever we did, they took our suggestions, except in 1 or 2 rare cases where there were some, employer-based scenarios that made it difficult. But they took our recommendations seriously. They accepted it. We worked hard. All of us were, we were not paid or anything. We were just volunteers, but we helped them, and it was even better than the committees I've been on for the past summit, where you just send your recommendations and into a black hole, and nobody knows what's going to come out of it. This time they accepted everything other than some small cases, and they had to. So some sessions went to vendors, but other than that, the reason it looks good is because we worked it and we made it look good. So industry, thank you.
So you can thank Mala for it looking good.
Mhm.
That's what I got out of this. Solomon says that you could view a presentation on module signing. And I mean, module signing is another good example of let's get into a deep topic, and the number of people who are going to really benefit from this and be able to understand it and be able to apply it and be able to use this in their own jobs is not enormous. Those among those people, they are extremely happy to learn about module signing. And I think this is the trade-off that we have. This is actually why we have the advanced DBA group for TriPass, that there aren't enough 300, 400, 500 level sessions, and we wanted to promote those where user groups typically can't go 500 level or 400 level or even often 300 level, because you have 30 people with a variety of skill sets, levels of experience, and interests that you're trying to please. And so we tend to go broad common denominators, which works. I mean, it's popular. This is why you see a lot of 100 and 200 level sessions at conferences, is because they draw people in, and has never drawn a huge crowd, no matter how many people say that security matters. Yeah. But I'd say a fair amount of it, like I mentioned, is for many of the people, they'll look at it, they're not going to understand it immediately, and it's going to be deep enough that, I don't think I'll understand it if I'm a business analyst, or it's not my role or something. So this is where it gets tricky. The other topic, let's see, Anders says, no surprise to anyone, I have no problem walking up to anyone. This is why Anders is campaigning. Got my old boss an interview as a VP of engineering for a company because I knew the CEO. Yeah, these sorts of contacts matter a lot. I would say that the last time I got a job in which I didn't know any of the people involved in the process was 2007. Ever since then, it's been, I took this because I know the people there, or because I knew of people there, or because people I knew recommended it to me, or because people in the community reached out to me like, hey, you want to do some consulting work doing this stuff. Most everything has been because I knew these people. So those connections are extremely important, and something that is hard to overstate. I think it's very easy to understate just how valuable those connections are. And it's not from I'm being corrupt or I'm being lazy or anything like that. It's, there are 1,000 people in the world who can do what I do. Maybe 5,000. But how do I find one of those 5,000 people out of 7+ billion? And if I happen to know one of those 5,000 people, that person's immediately got a huge leg up. If I've vetted the person before, I've worked with you before, and I think you're intelligent, well-spoken, creative, and can get the job done, well, you've got a big leg up on 4,500 of those 5,000 people, because they're probably not going to fit all those categories. Or at least if they will, I don't know that they will. So unless I find one of the people who's just more qualified than you, yeah, you're going to have that huge advantage. And it's going to be, I mean, typically it works out fairly well, but it means that it's not just a matter of doing well, doing good work, but it's also getting to know people, having that kind of attitude where people want to reach out and talk to you like, hey, I used to work with you 3 years ago and I loved working with you so much. How about you come over here and I'll pay you more money, because I'm now a manager of a team over here and I need good people to fill this out. That's where a lot of job movement often comes from, and where some of the best movement comes from, because otherwise, if you go in like through a recruiter job and you don't know any of the people on the other side, you're playing job roulette.
It's like module unsigned.
There you go, Mike.
And that's true even of user groups like this. Like, that's why shows like this and user groups like this are so important, because I've gotten 2 jobs because of connections via the user group. Like, one guy, like, hey, you gave me a chance to speak. I was, I spoke for your user group so many months ago, and I have an opening. Would you be interested? That sort of a thing. And somebody else was impressed by some question I asked at a talk. So things like that. That's why these things are so important, that user groups and participating, getting to know people is so important.
Yeah.
And it's a benefit for us. I mean, recently there was a position open for .NET developer who knows SQL Server, and I was like, oh, well, I would go to you two and say, hey, like, I trust your judgment, Mala and Kevin and Tracy. Like, do you know anybody who might be interested in this? Because I know that Kevin has some crossover with .NET and knows people who do that stuff, and it was 100% .NET and like database type stuff. So I'm like, wow, this is perfect.
So coming to that question, Kevin, so it makes sense to me that the conference has a lot of 100 200 level sessions, because there are plenty of people who are new, they want to learn and all of that. So a senior person, I'm not discounting in any way the importance of networking with the younger generation, with people like that. But typically, the older people are those who move into those higher roles, or who are, on the same level as you are and such. So, what are the gains that you can get from going to a conference like that, both on the learning front as well as the networking front? What do you think?
Yeah, I'll say that there are probably 3 major areas, and Anders hit on area number 1, which is, even if you go to a 100 level session, you're probably going to learn something still.
No, I understand that, but I'm not going to go to a conference where 80-90% of sessions are 100 level.
Yeah, no, I'm getting there. There's 3 of these answers, but one of them is that, like I said, you will learn something, and also it gives you an opportunity to try looking at other things. I'm not familiar with this topic. It's a completely new thing to me, and here's a good opportunity for me to get some exposure in a low risk area where, okay, I want to learn a little bit about MySQL, or about Postgres, or about Aerospike, or let's say writing Blazor apps. If you don't know anything about that, a 100 level or 200 level conference session is going to be a good place to at least learn about it, where you can get some of the ideas of what are topics of interest, what are things that people are talking about, and how does it look. Get me started on the topic, and if I'm really interested, I can continue on. So I think that's reason number 1. Reason number 2 is that even if a lot of the sessions are high level, hopefully there is enough depth in some of the sessions that will be satisfying. So you don't have to have 50% of sessions be 300 or 400 level. But if you do have 20-30% of sessions, then you kind of do roll the dice a little bit on those 300 and 400 level sessions, because 300 level session on module signing is interesting to database administrators, not as interesting to database developers. A 300 level session on, say, intelligent query processing, probably more interesting to database developers, or query hints. Kevin Klein's 400, 500 level sessions on query hints. Those are going to be really interesting to developers, much less interesting to DBAs and to the rest of that broader ecosystem. So if you have enough of those, then the hope is for a senior level person, all right, I can find 1 or 2 topics per day that are going to be interesting to me. That does make it harder as a sell. Not sure what kind of DBA job I've ever had. In fairness, my last DBA job ended in 2013, so I haven't been a real DBA in almost a decade. Moved over to database development, And even when I was a real DBA, I was doing more database development than administration. But I did backups. I did sometimes restore. Sometimes the restores worked. So that's number 2. And number 3 is that you do still get the opportunity to, let's say, okay, I don't like networking at all. You at least get this opportunity to maybe try to discover a little something. And that ties in with introductory level sessions, but even going to other types of sessions, going to other types of events, you might be pushed to have a discussion that you otherwise wouldn't have. Like if you're at a developer conference where you are one of a very small number of database people, that's a perspective that a lot of developers don't have and may end up bringing you closer into a discussion or into a circle than you would at a data conference where everybody just tacitly agrees. So that I think that's where I would go with the mid-level or senior level person. And frankly, if you're also a manager or you're a senior level person with hiring recommendation capabilities, it can be a good place to go to a conference and say talent scouting, where I may need a junior level database person or a mid-level database person who here is giving an interesting presentation, who's doing an interesting job. If I have conversations at lunch, what are people doing? How do those first impressions feel? And might lead to, well, my company's hiring, give us a call. So that's probably, I spoke at one in Tennessee, CodeStock. CodeStock's a good one. There's also Music City Dev, which I spoke at twice, once in person. Full house for 100 level. Yeah. You can get some packed non-standard conference sessions, and that leads to the point that I kept putting off, which is that the question of how much does it make sense to have ecumenical conferences? And I think it makes a fair amount of sense. I want to straddle a line here because my entire shtick is ecumenical data platform. I mean, if I had to summarize it in 3 words, those would be the 3 words that I would pick. I get paid by the syllable. Yes, I also get paid by obscure religious terms. So my pay schedule is very strange. Smaller words for the DBAs in the crowd. What I'm talking about here is a broad variety of topics. Yeah, Mike got it. The broader.
I looked it up.
Oh, you looked it up? Okay. The shtick was eating a new burrito. No, that's just my after conference event thing. I guess that's also a shtick, but that's not the shtick here. As it turns out, I do a lot of things that are not just SQL Server related. I really like SQL Server a lot. I enjoy working with it a whole lot. I like doing administrative stuff, development stuff. I like doing data science. I like doing development, application development, working in the cloud, working with event streaming, working with large amounts of data, with small amounts of data. It's kind of, hey, let's have fun with all of this. And a conference that tries to do just one thing, just SQL Server, or if SQL Server is too big of a platform, just database administration within SQL Server. Backup Con 2022. Not going to get a lot of people. Restore Con 2023. Probably also not going to get a lot of people. Verify Only will be one of the 2 tracks. But, as you narrow it down further and further, you get to that same problem that we have at 300, 400 level sessions, that you lose a lot of potential audience by narrowing things down. At the same time, there is a risk that you go too broad. If you just have TechCon 2022, and I have 20 tracks for literally anything technology related, everything.
That's what happened to PASS in the last days.
I agree.
That they wanted to expand the scope, and the last two conferences, the 2017, 2018 ones, got ridiculously broad. Like all kind, there would be 2 sessions on Python. There would be something else. Somebody talking about Oracle. There would be a couple of sessions on some random stuff, and it's like, what is this conference about? And it's like, really, there wasn't any focus. And even those of us who were attending for like decades, we are like, I'm not sure what to attend here. I don't think this is making any sense anymore. And it got to be like that. And they didn't know the right direction to take it in.
Yeah, and you also get a lot of pushback in the other direction, which is, oh, well, a SQL Server conference isn't going to be a long-term winner because we need other groups. We need a broader base. And that was a lot of the argument behind the past Business Analytics Summit, which, as a concept, was potentially viable. As a practical implementation, not great, Bob. But yeah, as Anders says, like I joke, I needed a tag in Azure to my abstracts to get picked. Yeah. And that is a little bit of a joke, but it kind of was the case.
So, talking about that particular conference, Kevin, what I heard from some people who were, including some board members at that time, it was sort of like, it wasn't exactly a data science conference. It was more around Microsoft business analytics and Microsoft related stuff. And Microsoft was doing their own BI event, the Power Platform event at that time. So it was sort of a competitor to that, and it didn't fit in the category of data science conferences either. So it got somewhere in between, and that's why it didn't go anywhere. That was at least one opinion that I got from somebody on the board. Yeah.
Sure, I believe that.
Yeah.
So the target was not great. The group of people, and it was weird because they were marketing it to the data platform people while also kind of saying, this really isn't your conference. And so you had that problem. So I think there's definitely a benefit to going broader, but there are limits to how broad you can go. Like at a past summit, how broad can you go? I don't know. I mean, is Postgres where you draw the line? MySQL? Is it MongoDB? Is it Python and R? .NET development? Apache Kafka? Spark. I mean, I've spoken on several of those topics at past summit, and so I've been part of that problem. It's kind of what I do. I get myself in as part of the problem. And I get where it can be very difficult. I don't think I have any prescriptive guidance that says a conference should have this percentage of talks in this type of topic and this percentage of non-related talks, because that, I don't know. I don't.
Well, in part, it could. I mean, this is just me speculating. Some conferences are to make money, right? Some conferences are to build talent. Some conferences are to further the tech, like the Python one. Or so, yeah, I think it's a mix of like who's in charge, who's driving it. Right?
Yeah.
Like, what's the purpose of it? Is it just to make money? Like, what was it? 8 kilobytes? That was just kind of like, wasn't that like people who were really passionate about
8 KB?
VBAs?
Don't say 8 kilobytes. They don't like it.
Oh, they don't like it when
No,
okay.
I just say 8 KB. The name is 8 KB. Not
okay, I gotta be cool like the young kids. Okay, 8 KB.
Yeah.
Yep. But
Right.
that's another conference where it's specifically 400, 500 level content. And so that ties in with what Andrews is saying, that, yeah, there's room for niche conferences as well as wide conferences. And I agree. Might need to combine Backup Con and Restore Con. Well, they did Backup Con one year and they did Restore Con the next year.
I think Twitter's
No,
gonna
my thought on that
go
is
to
that
that.
what Bob God said once is that making a session beyond the 300 level is a lot of work for anyone who wants to do it. So if you have just one event you are going to present it to, and then you can't do much with it, why would that person put in that much of time? Unless you're a geek of some sort who has nothing better
You
to
call
do.
Jeff Modem and you're done.
Yeah, so that's, I don't know. I mean, I would kind of think like that too if I were the person doing it. Is that I
Well,
would
it
need
seemed
more
like
than, yeah.
if you're writing you're working on a chapter of a book or something, like if you were working on GraphQL and getting into some real niche stuff, you turn it into a talk, I guess. I mean, this is just me spitballing. Like, it is a lot of work to do those 500 levels, so you'd want to leverage it with other work, I would assume.
Yes. Yeah, you want to leverage it with other work or have it presented at a number of different places. Yeah, you have to think about, how am I amortizing the amount of time and effort that I put into this versus what is my opportunity cost? What other things could I have developed during that time? I could have created a really fantastic 200 level session that gets selected at 15 conferences, or I create the 500 level session that gets picked at one place. And there may be some personal intrinsic benefit in doing the 500 level, proof that I could do it, or that I know the speaker at this conference and they really wanted me to do this session or whatever. But yeah, that is something that is important from the standpoint of a content developer. And also, how long is that going to be viable information? So if it's, for example, internals of pages in SQL Server, well, that hasn't changed in decades. Since what, 2005 and the lob. I don't know. I'm sure that there's been some change that I'm not familiar with, but it's been pretty much stable for the last 18 years. Well, in that case, I'm pretty confident that if I develop content around that, it's not going to change anytime soon. By contrast, if I'm doing a development on a topic in Python or in R or in Power BI, it might change in 2 months. This thing may no longer apply as such. And in that case, it is a lot harder to go deep than in a case where you have a lot of stability in the product.
I have a random announcement. We're tied with the Microsoft Developer Channel, just so you guys know. We're famous.
Good. Now we got to go beat them. Let's beat the brakes off of that channel. Chat.
So who's tied with the Microsoft Developer Channel, Mike?
We are.
We are
9-9.
Oh yeah.
Who? We meaning our show?
Yeah.
You're kidding?
Yeah, we have a
There's real
broad
humans
audience
out there.
What?
We have a broad audience of very talented and successful people.
How do you know that?
So I have the Microsoft Developer Channel pinned to my Twitch next to like C# Fritz, and Layla codes it. So you can see, if it's live, you can see how many people are on it.
Oh, you're kidding. Can you post a link?
Don't
I can
send
do a
chat over.
screenshot. Oh, people heard me bragging and they dropped off.
Dang it. This is what happens, Mike. This happens every time.
I should have waited until we pulled ahead.
Yeah, so when it comes down to conference selection and from the content developer standpoint, yeah, there's that big opportunity cost of how much time and effort is it going to take to develop, and how much traction can I get out of this talk. I mean, there are some talks that I've only given once. I enjoyed giving it. I kind of wish I would give it again, but it just won't be because nobody's ever going to select it. There are other times when I thought I would give it multiple times, but apparently it was either too deep or not interesting enough and just doesn't get picked. And then at that point, like, fine, I'll talk on something else. And when you are developing that deep content, I mean, you do have the risk of, well, if Past Summit doesn't pick this thing, how many other places can I submit this thing to and expect to get picked? If it's 400 level SQL Server content, the answer is the Triangle Area SQL Server User Group's Advanced DBA session. Get those submissions in, sessionize. Submissions are open, by the way. I probably should mention that.
Yes.
You start-
don't have Tracy's link on me, otherwise I'd post it in chat. But yes, submissions are open. So please, if you want to speak, you try your local user group first. We're here.
Spindles and page splits.
That's a very interesting topic. Interesting in the sense that I don't know that we would ever select it.
I know it's too esoteric.
I mean, spindles at this point, spindles in this year.
He's like, do not bring up drives that make noise. I do not want to talk about it.
No,
So
not unless you can.
new conferences. Coming to that topic of that, Kevin, as a fellow introvert, new conferences, I find it very, very scary. Scary in the sense that the only thing I can do at a new conference is learn tech stuff. So that's why I limit the new conferences that I want to go to. I would not feel comfortable being around people I don't know at all. It's hard for me.
I get that. I've had that experience as well at conferences and different places, and where if I weren't a speaker, the chance that I would be an attendee was effectively zero. Not
And
only
that
from
too, in today's world where there is so much of streaming and stuff that you can learn online, you don't have to submit yourself to that. That's my take, at least. So I mean, in earlier times, the only way you could learn is going to a live class, and it's not like that anymore.
True. All right. I work online. Conferences are for in person. That is a main opportunity to actually see people, especially when you don't have an office. So I think that's a good topic for us to end on, mostly because we ran out of topics. We stretched this one hard today, folks. But, I think you learned something today, like what the word ecumenical means. If you already knew what ecumenical meant, then I guess you didn't learn anything.
No, Kevin, I knew what that word meant, but I learned more than that.
And Mike, I cut you off there.
Oh, I slacked myself a list of some new topics, and I went back. I just wanted to compliment you in the chat. Like, I went back to my group with some of the stuff we talked about 2 weeks ago. I know it's kind of a talk you're bringing back up again about features that you may not know exist, and we've already started using a bunch of them. So split ag and split and a bunch of the ones that we were talking about before. So appreciate it. It was great.
Excellent. That's what I want to hear, regardless of whether it's true. So with that, quick reminder, tomorrow Josephine Bush is talking to us about SQL auditing. Meetup.com/TriPass. It's going to take you basically to the same URL you're at today. So just show up here again tomorrow, roughly the same time as we started today. 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're now in Standard Time, although I lost that hour because I woke up an hour early yet again this year. It happens every year. But until we see each other again, everyone, take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone, for attending today.